Okay, so thanks Deirdre, and welcome everyone to the very first Triple L. Is it a bit loud? To the very first Triple L Young Entrepreneur Symposium. Um, Tonight we have the pleasure of picking the brains of these three young entrepreneurs that have very kindly given some of their time to spend tonight with us. And the aim of tonight is not simply to inspire some of you to start your entrepreneurial ventures and turn those ideas into, profit-making enterprises, but also to give you some, let our guests give you some, real practical advice that you guys can use to start your businesses. And as you can see, this event will be live streamed at what I'm told is called Google Hangouts on Air, something like that. The link has been posted on the Triple L website. So welcome to our online viewers, I guess. And we're also very happy to announce that this event, like Deirdre said, is also the signal for the start of our Triple L blog competition. The theme for the blog competition is obviously entrepreneurship, and Triple L members can participate at www.sun.ac.za/Triple L data. And I think until next week, Friday, people can submit entries, and the blog with the most hits by next week, Friday, will win 500 Rand that can go towards your house dinners, which is quite a cool initiative. And then I'd like to remind everyone that applications for Triple L for next year are open, and they close on the 8th of August. So there's still time to apply. And finally, to thank the New Generation residents for the use of this space, which has been nicely set up by Matthew as well. Okay, I think we can get on to introductions. Deirdre has said who these people are, but I'd like to get into their background a bit. Farah has told me that she's not sure that everything I Googled about her is right. So she can correct me if I do anything wrong. Evan, I'll start with you. Evan, along with his friend Mark Sivitz, is the founder of TaxTim, which is an online digital tax assistant who asks you a series of simple questions, one by one, and then fills in your tax returns for you. Provides an affordable and effective alternative to getting your own tax practitioner. The service is available in English, Xhosa, Zulu, and Afrikaans. And I know not many of us have experience in tax returns, but I'm sure we'll find it handy once we do start with our entrepreneurial ventures. Evan is a graduate of UCT, and he has been in the business of starting businesses since he was in high school, I hear. Okay, so that's correct. Okay, Farah, let's try you. Farah was born in Cape Town, but grew up in the UK, the United Kingdom. She studied law after high school, but maybe decided that was too boring, and then started African Star Communications, which is a corporate and celebrity public relations and event management company. She was voted one of Mail and Guardian's top 200 young South Africans for 2011, and was recently awarded the Outstanding Women in Business and Leadership Award at the Women's World Congress that was held in India this year. Good to have you here. Thanks, Farah. Okay. Yeah, we'll have a round of applause after everyone, otherwise Evan might feel left out. Then we have Nick Kaoma. Am I pronouncing that right? Okay, it's okay. Anyways, Nick started the lifestyle brand called Head Honcho in 2008. He studied BCom accounting before he realized that he needed a bit more excitement in his life, and started attending events such as Design Indaba and Fashion Week, I'm told, to research the Cape Town fashion and media culture. Head Honcho is now stocked by, well, I hope it's still stocked, by Sesha and Sport Team, and has expanded to Nigeria and Zambia. Nick recently started another firm called Sixth Avenue, which does branding and marketing. Nick was awarded the title of Hustler of the Year at the 2012 South African Hip Hop Awards, and was one of Mail and Guardian's top 200 young South Africans for the year of 2013. So I think we can welcome all of our three guests. Thank you for being here. Check the time. Okay, great. So, like I said, the point of tonight is to provide some inspiration, but also some practical advice to you guys that are itching to start your own businesses. And I think before we get into it, we can get some background from from our guests themselves, things that you won't find on Google necessarily. Um, and I'd like to know a bit about how you guys came about your respective business ideas. I don't think, well, I think everyone here has thought about starting their own business, but they struggle to, find a gap to fill. So, typically, did you guys have this passion for what you're doing and decided to drop everything and go 100% towards this? Or is it more that you have to decide that you're going to take a leap and start your own business and then, find a gap to fill at a later stage? If you guys want to answer, just shout for the mic. Okay. Yeah, yeah, sure. If it's green, press it again. Okay, press it one more time. Our sound engineer Matthew Smorenberg on his way.
Now it's green.
Oh, there we go. Great.
Uh, so I mean, in the beginning, the first business I started was a web design business, and it was simply because I didn't enjoy using my dad's computer. He annoyed me, and I wanted to buy my own computer. So I thought, how could I do this the quickest way possible? So my mom was an architect, and she had a client who needed a website. She was like, "Oh, you do computer things. Why don't you do that?" And I was like, "Okay, I'll pretend to do a website." So I taught myself how to build a website using the internet, built it, and made enough money to buy my first computer. So that was pretty much how I started being an entrepreneur. And from then, I've just kind of not wanted to be an employee because that sounds horrible. And my parents both had bad experiences being employees. And I've managed to make it this far without having a real job. So I just thought I'd kind of keep doing that. And I've started 4 businesses which kind of made it beyond a week. Um, the web and while I was studying, I started strange debt collection by SMS website called Debt Hunt, and then another kind of online notice board SMS website called Live Notice, which I sold on Cape Ads eventually. And then 3 years ago, I started TaxTim because I found tax returns completely horrible, and I was trying to do my own one. I thought it was terrible. So I visited my friend who was a tax practitioner. He made it seem really easy, so I thought, couldn't I put his brain into a machine using computer programming, which I was familiar with, make a product that anyone can use, and that's kind of how we got started with that idea. And yeah, it's tough to kind of be an entrepreneur and run with your own idea for so long and kind of wait for it to pay off. But it's worth it to have the freedom and to be able to pursue things that you're interested in doing.
Okay, thanks. Nick, do you want to add something?
Okay. With regards to my background, you touched on it. I was studying BCom accounting at UCT. I think I spent 8 or 9 months at UCT, and I called it quits. Like you said, it wasn't very exciting for me, and I'm very impatient. So I wanted to get into the business world ASAP. So after dropping out, the goal was to start a t-shirt line. I've always wanted to be an entrepreneur from, I think I realized that when I was in grade 10. So I wanted to study something that will equip me with the skills and the discipline and the knowledge that one might need in the corporate world or the business world. So that's how I got into UCT. But afterwards I dropped out, worked as a waiter for a couple of years, very frustrating years. But I knew what my end goal was. The end goal was always to get into the business world. So while I was still a waiter, I managed to save up a few cents, and I started my first t-shirt label. I think this is about 10, 11 years ago. It didn't do too well because I really did not have the know-how or the experience and stuff. But I learned quite a few things. One of the things that I did around that time is I managed to stomach the courage to call up Gavin Roger, who's a renowned South African fashion designer, and it just went on the yellow pages back then, and then just randomly called his office, you know. And you know, I just told him like, dude, I need to see you. I need advice. I need to know about the game. Eventually, I met the guy. He welcomed me into his office, and he told me obviously a few things that I really needed to hear at the time. You know, when you're young and eager, you just you just want to go about it your own way, but there's always fundamental steps that you can't miss. So fast forward a bunch of years, I ended up working in the media industry. After leaving the media industry, I saved up enough cash to start Head Honcho. But by the time I started Head Honcho, I'd learned a lot. Besides what I learned, I developed, you know, decent leadership skills because I was leading a team at the time. And yeah, 6 years later, you know, the brand is a success. Well, I like to think that it's a success. And yeah, literally that's how I started.
Okay, just on you still. You mentioned that you dropped out to pursue this dream of yours. What would your advice be to students now? I mean, do you
Drop
think
out.
drop out? So
I'm kidding.
yeah, so I mean, those are the two options. I mean, either you can drop out and go 100% for something, or you can, maybe get a bit of a safety net. But a lot of the times, you find that the people that, want a bit of a safety net don't succeed in their entrepreneurial venture. What's your experience?
I think my advice is don't drop out. Don't do what I did. I think finish whatever it is that you're studying. That safety net, don't think of it as a safety net because then you're not really an entrepreneur. You know, but if you always think about a safety net, you want to have the guts to actually take risks, and you need to be able to take risks in business. So my thing is a degree provides you not just the knowledge, but I think the discipline, you know, the structure. Because when you're getting into business, and I'm not talking hustling, you know, I'm not talking selling some stuff on the corner. I'm talking real business. You need structure, you need discipline. I don't think there's anything that teaches you that better than a proper university degree. So I think you need that. And but the limitation to that is you might get caught up in the formal way of doing things. When you're getting into business, you need to be a little bit, you know, I guess loose with the way you do things. You have to be a little bit more creative. And I don't think a university teaches you that. So it's get that actual degree, but then be open and think like a creative person.
Okay, thanks. Farah?
Hi. My story isn't very different to the two guys here. I had a job, excuse my language, I had a bitch of a boss. I hated her. I walked into work every morning and it was the most depressing time of my life, I think. I've always wanted to own my own business. I come from a very entrepreneurial family. My dad's quite entrepreneurial. So I think I picked a lot of his ways up. And while I was studying at uni, I started off, I had no passion for it, but I needed money. You know, it's expensive being a student. You need to eat. And I started a business with my friends' grandmothers. They were retired. They were tired of sitting at home. So I got them all together and offered them cleaning jobs. And I went to the offices and they would clean offices for me. And I'd basically make the money and pay them. And everyone was happy. And that worked for about 3 years while I still lived in the UK. It helped me with uni, helped me pay rent, helped me eat. And eventually I came to South Africa in 2004. And I worked and bosses aren't for me. My mouth is too big to have a boss. So that was never going to work out for me. And also, I, I like the fact that I want to write my own paycheck. And I think the only way you really get to do that is when you work for yourself. So I kind of had enough. I went to the DTI, they wouldn't give me a loan. I went to the bank, they wouldn't give me a loan. They said my business plan wasn't good enough. I tried every women's group I could find in terms of funding, wouldn't give me money. So I said, screw it. And I registered my business. My company CC papers came in on the 20th of June 2008 at 12 o'clock, and at 5 past 12, I resigned with immediate effect. I had no money, no plan, but I wasn't going to do this anymore. It was like, this is it. I need to figure something out. Resigned with immediate effect, packed my bags. I got my paycheck, which was 12,000 Rand, and I paid for my bills, paid my car, paid my rent, put food in the house, and I had 1,000 Rand left to play with, and I spent 589 Rand buying my CC. So I had to make sure that was paid off. And then the rest of it was my business cards. And I really didn't have a backup plan. I had no savings whatsoever. That was it for me. That salary, I was really living paycheck to paycheck. And after 3 weeks of having African Star, I had heard through the grapevine that there was an opportunity to pitch for a small charity day for Manchester United through the Vodacom Challenge Cup. And AIG was still their sponsors at the time. So I walked in there, and I was the only girl in the room, and I pitched this plan with no staff, pretending I was a big company and it was great, and I got the job, and it paid me 10,000 Rand and me survive another couple of weeks. But it was hard. It wasn't easy. I think to be an entrepreneur, you need to have something inside of you that doesn't give up. If you don't have that, you're going to really regret it because you're going to cry. And even if you do have that inside you, you're going to cry. So either way, tears are shed. It was hard. I have a daughter. I have a 9-year-old daughter. And obviously when I started the business, I mean, she was much younger. And you've got to think, oh God, I've got to pay her nursery school bills, and I've got to feed her and everything else. And it was tough because I'm a very proud person, and I didn't want help from anyone. I wanted to do this myself. And you don't want to tell your parents that you can't eat. You don't want to tell your parents that you can't pay your rent, and you don't want to tell your parents that you've been kicked out. You're too old for that nonsense. And for me, it was really hard. I mean, my mom's probably hearing the first. That's my mom sitting in the back, so she's probably hearing this for the first time. Okay, so as old as I am, I'm probably still going to be in crap when I walk out of here. But it was hard. It was really hard. And when you have to make the decision of, whether your child eats or whether you eat and your kid has to eat, and all that's left in the house is bread and cheese. There isn't really much to do, and that was a tough time for me. For 2 years, I kind of lived like that, and it reminded me of my student days so much, but without the kid. So that was hard, but I think one thing about being an entrepreneur is perseverance. Perseverance. How can I speak? You know what I mean? But that's tough when you really don't have that. When you can't see where the next paycheck is coming from, and you really can't see where everything else is going to fall into place, you really do live on hope and belief that your product is going to be right. And I think only after I had a particular conversation with my mom did my business really take off. I'll never forget, my mom said to me, if you're going to do this business because you're going to chase money, you're going to chase money your whole life. So is this your passion? Is this what you want to do? Because if this is really your passion, it'll make you money. So I really had to sit down and think, is this really what I want to do? And I love my job. I get out of bed every day, not because I have to, but because I absolutely want to. It is the most amazing life I could have ever imagined. I also started my business 6 years ago when Nick started Head Honcho. So for me, 6 years down the line and being able to live in a house I don't have to pay for anymore, a car that is paid off, a child that can go to private school. Guys, that for me is making it.
Thanks. I think we can hand it over there to Evan. Okay, yeah, thanks. That was really insightful, and I think inspiring just in itself. I think, well, you persevered and you managed to say perseverance, but I think that exactly. But I think that kind of sums up a lot of your stories. With just this kind of, not willing to give up. So I think the next kind of topic that I want to move on to is exactly that, turning your idea into reality. And Farah, you've spoken a bit about how you got funding, but I think a lot of us are sitting in this room thinking, you know what, I've got a really cool idea for a business, but where the hell do I get money? We exactly in that position where we have bread and cheese at home, and that's it, maybe a beer or two. and we don't have the first clue about where to go to get some financial assistance. And possibly some of us have approached some banks who have also said your business plan is lacking and showed us the door. Evan, what was your route to getting funding, and what would your advice be to aspiring business owners? Well, for someone that's in the IT business.
Okay. So I was relatively lucky. I mean, what I did is I had this idea and I was like, hey, it's a great idea with my friend, and we are like, oh, it's a great idea in our heads and it's not real. And then I saw this advert that Google's looking for ideas. They set up an incubator in Cape Town, the Google Bono incubator, and they're like, oh, apply with your wacky ideas. We're like, haha, let's do this. So we just filled in this quick form on their website, and we made it through to the next round. We had to submit slides, and we made it to the next round. We had to sit in this boardroom with 8 frowning people from all around the world who asked us difficult questions and made us perspire. But then eventually we got chosen, and we were one of the top 3 from 650 applicants, and we made it into their program. And with that came seed funding, which was really nice. And it allowed us to put the word Google on every single email we sent, which is really helps open doors. Any kind of label that you can use or big number that you use in an email, use it. Just milk milk it as much as you can. So I mean that's how we got started. Unfortunately, 3 months into the program, we were hitting all our milestones and everything was going fine. But our lead mentor disliked the way that we were doing things, so he kicked us out of the program, which was really upsetting. And then we were suddenly out of office space, out of money, out of internet, and sitting at home again with no idea what to do. Our mentor disliked the fact that we wanted to launch in South Africa. He wanted us to launch in Germany immediately, which didn't make sense to us. So that was a kind of lesson that we learned: is you're going to get tons of advice from rich people. You may think it's valuable advice, but you still need to think about it yourself and decide whether it applies to you or not. Anyway, so we kind of spoke to a bunch of people after that, and luckily had an introduction to someone who I went to school with when I was 6, and he liked what we were doing and gave us another chunk of money to last about 6 months. And then that's how we kept going from then. We raised another round at the end of like 1 year later when we started, and then from then we just bootstrapped extremely for like 2 years and just lived off what we made, and been creative with how we spent our money.
Okay, thanks, Evan. I think Nick, you spoke about approaching, is it Gavin Roger?
Right.
Yeah, for funding, and I mean,
no, not funding.
Not for funding, just
advice.
For advice, okay. And I mean, is that just a leap that you have to take? You just another guy on the street, and you email this established person. Was he kind of your last resort, or did you like what he was doing? How did you come to approaching him, and what advice did he give you for getting funding, and how did you eventually get funding?
Well, I mean, if you put it in context, I was 19 years old at the time. And this guy that just came to Cape Town, I think I'd been in Cape Town for like a year or 2. I don't really know people, especially people in business, let alone people in actual fashion. So I would drive around or take taxis and go to different places looking for fabrics and stuff like that. So I was truly clueless. So there you pick up a magazine and you're reading about this fancy couture designer called Gavin Roger. So when you're ignorant, young and dumb, you're thinking, fuck, let me just call this guy, So at the time, I didn't even have I don't know whether it's the hesitance that, okay, man, dude, how are you going to call this guy? It's such a hot shot. But I was like, yo, let me try him out. So I called his office with not trying to get funding, but I just wanted to basically be in that environment, in a proper fashion environment. Maybe just check out his offices, or maybe just check out whatever it is that they're doing. So sometimes you draw inspiration from the smallest of things. So lucky enough for me, he was a cool guy. He was like, cool, come in. And I spent about 30 minutes with him. He looked at our designs, very different from what he does. He does couture, we do streetwear. And what I was designing 11 years ago is the most basic stuff you can ever find. But he was very courteous. The advice that he gave me was more on the fashion side of things. He said you must pay attention to detail. Quality is very important in this business and stuff like that. So that was cool. But with regards to funding, till this day, I don't know what it feels like to actually get a large injection of capital from an investor or a bank. I've never had that. I've managed to build a business that's worth, a couple millions, but I've never really had, yo, dude, here's a million or here's 500K. I've tried banks, but obviously when you're on the come up, you don't have a track record or whatever. It's very difficult to get a bank to part with the money. So what I did was I used to work as a magazine editor, and I used to earn about 25,000 rand. So every month, I used to take half of my salary and make T-shirts. And the next month, I would take half of my salary, do an event or a little party to launch whatever T-shirts that we have. So every month, I made that sacrifice. That's the type of advice I'll give to you guys. You're not always gonna get R1 million from an angel investor. It doesn't happen. Maybe it happens in the movies, but generally it doesn't happen. So that's what I did. And from there on, that little bit of cash, obviously we make T-shirts, we sell out, reinvest in the little business, and it got to a point where the stuff got really popular, and it got to Joburg. When your stuff gets to Joburg and it gets popular in Joburg, it's a wrap. So, one of my business partners, his name is Tibbs. He manages, a couple of guys in the entertainment scene and stuff like that. And at the time, he was like, "Oh, how about how, how about I start, wearing the stuff? Maybe I can give it to a few of my friends." And at the time, he had just started managing the guy that you guys know as AKA man. He was like, "Yo, the kid on the come up, I think it's dope. Let's start dressing him." And then AKA became our first ambassador. So now he's rocking the stuff, in music videos, on TV, whatever, and it blew up. You know, blew up to a point where previously, where it was difficult to get a store to stock our stuff, they started, knocking at our doors like, "Yo, we need this stuff. Can you guys come and, hook us up with some stock or whatever." And then it got to a point where in summer, I think it's summer 2010, I got a really large order, our biggest order at that time. It was worth 500,000, for a bunch of t-shirts and stuff. But I got this order, it's awesome, but I don't have the cash to actually make the stuff. Because the way it works in clothing is you get the order, spend 6 weeks manufacturing stuff, you deliver, and then you get paid 60 days later. So your money is tied up for 90 to 120 days sometimes.
Yeah, so cash flow is a problem.
Serious problem. So I thought about it long and hard, and I came up with a solution, a daring solution. The solution was, why don't I just ask these guys to pay me up front? And I tried them, and I was like, "Guys, you need the product. I don't have the money. December is coming up. Why don't you guys pay me, up front?" They're like, "No, man, no one does that in business." And I'm talking about hectic, business people here. So I convinced them. Eventually, I gave them an incentive to give us the cash up front, and we produced the stuff. It took us 8 weeks, delivered, and they sold the stuff, and we had money. They had stock, they made money, and still this day we still work together. So you have to be creative.
Yeah. Um, and Farah, you were talking about how you walked into this place and you just did your pitch as if you had this massive company backing you up. Do you think being an entrepreneur is always just about faking it until you make it?
Just about to say that, guys. You have to fake it till you make it in business. I don't know how many of you know this. My business is 6 years old. Up until January, my business ran on myself and my PA. Everything that we did for the last 5.5 years, the biggest festivals, whatever it was myself and a PA. Now I have 5 staff, in the last 6 months. It's all about timing, and it's all about making sure that you can make money and still run and still make a profit. It's not easy, and I definitely know that because the first time I have taken a holiday in 5 years was in December. It was amazing. But you really, once you give up your job and you think this is going to be easier, no, it's the hardest thing you're ever going to do. You work for yourself, which means there's no sleeping in, no such thing as weekends, no such thing as public holidays, and there's definitely no such things as really being able to chill with your friends. That's a lot of sacrifice that you give up in the first few years of your business. I think with me as well, the fact that I didn't really have any capital besides the 1,000 rand that I really started, the only other thing I really had was my laptop and my cell phone, and pretty much for a year and a half, I really did work off my bedroom floor. That was really all I had. But I think, I really did. I really did live the first 2 years of my business by faking it till I made it, because you have to go to a lot of glamorous events, and I didn't have the money to buy a different outfit for everything, so I used to borrow clothes from my friends, and you do everything you possibly can to live the life that you want to live. So if you think that you in a couple of years you want to be running this successful business and you want to be a millionaire, I'm not saying go out there and go and spend all your money and hope that it comes back to you, but I am saying to you, you need to live your dream. So everything that you do, if no matter what business you want to start, you need to already be living it now, even though you're at uni, because you need to understand the dynamics of what is expected of you once you leave this place. It isn't, being in, I think one thing about, with what I decided, I was like, what is going to make me different from every other publicist? And my industry is the entertainment industry, so there's always scandals, and there's always this, and there's always that, and you really, I'm gonna be honest with you, if you want to be there, it's very easy in my industry to sleep your way to the top, but that is not. I need to look at myself every day in the mirror, and I need to be able to walk outside and know that there's nothing that anybody can say about me besides I'm a brilliant businesswoman. And for me, that was more important than anything else. And having a daughter as well. So, you have to think about these things. It's not just your business, it's your life. So for me, I guess I had to work a little bit harder than a lot of other people in my industry. And I'm not knocking what they've done. It's just I decided to do it a different way. And for me, doing that, it did take me a little bit longer, and it was a little bit harder. But I work with teams that is part of Headhunter. We actually work quite closely together, and for me, when I work with these guys, I feel respected because they give me the respect because they know what I'm capable of, and that's all I ever wanted from my industry because it's such a male-dominated industry. For me, when I started, I always knew the direction I wanted to go, and for me, my thing is I don't want to be famous. Me, I want to be rich. In the story, that's my aim. I don't care about how famous. I just want to be rich. When I live on my island, I want to stay on my yacht and have this gorgeous oil boy tent. Putting oil. That's my life. That's the way I envision my life in the next 5 years. I know about you, but I know where I want to be, and I've always known that. And for me to get to that point, I need to work a lot harder, and I need to do. You need to put in the time a lot more than other people do. When you work a 9 to 5, let's be honest, anyone who's had a job, you don't care about that business. You want to get your paycheck at the end of the month. You go in at 9, you leave at 5. Not 1 minute past 5, you leave at 5. You wait for the thing to hit 5 and you're out. And that's not how you want to live, and it's definitely not how you want your employees to live. I love my girls that work for me. They're amazing. Sometimes we sit at the office till 7 o'clock at night and we're just chatting, or we go out on the weekends because you have to build a relationship with the people that you work with. But it's life isn't easy, and your dreams, they don't always come to fruition, but that's your own fault. To be honest with you, if your dreams don't come to fruition in life, that's your own fault. You mess that up, because every one of us has the same opportunities, whether you were born into money or not. you still have to have some sort of ambition in life. And I always knew that I wanted to have this business persona, and that's the career I pursued. I don't really do any other interviews besides business interviews, but to be able to help the clients that I had on my books at the time, because originally when African Star started, it was just a celebrity PR agency. And I always said my niche is always going to be taking the unknown to the known, whether it was, a rapper, a singer, an actress, whatever. I always wanted to help people achieve their dreams. So for me, it was very important to do that. And I found that the more I was becoming known for what I was doing, the more people were looking at my clients. And I used that strategy to pretty much get here today. Teebs was AKA's manager. I was AKA's publicist. So, for me, it was as important for me to make sure that he was as famous as anybody else that was out there, but also to make sure that I was going to build my career on that as well. So Kenan helped me as much as I helped him. And, I appreciate that. And you do build your career with your artists. I look at Casper Neves, who we work with now, and I look at him, and for me, I hope they never hear this. I'm sorry, Kenan, I'm sorry to feel it, but they're the same person to me. Because when I look at their careers and where it's started and where it's going, it very is, it is something very similar. But your dreams, you're gonna need help. You can't do this by yourself. You're gonna need to ask a lot of questions, and you're gonna get people who are gonna be wanting your advice eventually. And the one thing I will say to you is give as much back as somebody gave you. But you're also gonna get everyone trying to make sure that you never succeed. So make sure that you do to prove them wrong.
Okay, I think those are some hard-hitting words, and it's good that we have that honesty here and that kind of advice, because I think that's what students want. Well, the students that are here at least. I'd like to know. I mean, you talked about now about people, that are going to want to get you down, and I think there might be, some students sitting here and thinking that, what, I really want to start that. I don't know, let's call it a racing car company, but I'm busy studying my law degree, and my parents just would never forgive me if I drop this. And, they've spent some money on my education, they've invested in me, and I'm just going to throw it on the ground and start my own thing. How was that for you guys? I mean, you mentioned that Evan, you mentioned that you went from one business to the next. I mean, did your parents just accept that?
No.
Okay, can you elaborate a bit there? I'll get to Nick and Farah after this.
My mom was always supportive, but my dad was very much, oh, why don't you just get a job? Why don't you just get a safe job and have a reliable paycheck every month? Um, just about, oh, I want to be driving fancy cars and things like that, which didn't really matter to me. What's more important is that I'm doing what I want to be doing, and I need kind of a higher goal in mind. And mine was always, I want to just be free. I don't want to be a slave to this crap system, having to go in, clock in, do someone else's tasks, pay money. I just want to be independent from this whole system that is finances. They're not me. Um, but with regards to people kind of not understanding what you're doing, I mean, I think I've had more pressure from my friends, and not even actively. It's been completely passively. They've all just continued being normal employees and earn normal paychecks and drive normal cars and have normal houses. And that's tough to see happen if you are not at that stage. If you're doing your own thing, you need to be able to kind of stand through that and have enough strength to see that happening, but you're still on your own path doing your own thing, and that's still kind of important to you. Um,
Okay. Nick, again, you mentioned that you dropped out and so a lot of pressure. Who did you have that supported you from the start, or is that one of the things that you need to have as an entrepreneur, like this kind of steadfast goal and belief in yourself?
You obviously need that. But I mean, to answer your question, I've never been one of those people that listens to people. Well, I do take advice, but if I've made up my mind about my direction in life, that's it. My parents or friends or whatever, it's either they're on board or, it is what it is. So I'm very stubborn about my direction, about my future, about my life. So I'd rather make up my mind and make up, just know what I want to do with my life. And my advice to you guys is, cool, your parents want you to be a doctor or to be a lawyer. But I mean, at the end of the day, it's your life. I have a friend who was very smart. We went to a primary school together. Eventually, we went our separate ways in high school. Uh, but I found out that he studied the same thing I was studying. I was trying to study at UCT. He became a chartered accountant, and he ended up working for an accounting firm. So here's this guy. He spent 4 or 5 years at work, 3 years doing articles. He's now a chartered accountant, and he's working at one of the biggest accounting firms. And he became totally miserable. You know, I mean, he was totally miserable. So you ask yourself, oh, cool, your parents want you to do this. There's maybe pressure from your teachers. They're like, hey, you're clever, so you must become a chartered accountant. I got that. I got that. They're like, yo, you are one of our top students, so you need to study this. And they ingrain that in your head every single day. I think it's very important to listen, but you gotta listen to yourself more than you listen to others. Now the guy stopped, obviously the accounting thing, and he's trying to break into the motivational speaking space. I'm like, damn, dude, you wasted 8, 9 years of your life. You know what I mean? So you have to consider that. So for me, yes, I got a lot of great people around me. I got a good support system, an amazing girlfriend, amazing friends. They all want the best for me. I got a girlfriend. So you know what I mean. So I've a lot of people that are they're not necessarily yes men. You know, these are people that are able to call me to order because I also make mistakes or whatever, and they look out for me. Cool, have that great support system, but you always need to know what your goals in life are. You need that north star. That purpose in life that just guides you any given day.
Yeah, thanks. Farah, you've spoken a bit about this already, but I know that you've been involved in. Well, I mean, you've recently received that award from the World Congress of Women, Women's World Congress, I think it's called. Um, and I'm not sure whether this has been like a part of your entrepreneurial experience, but how would you or maybe how would you describe to especially the ladies sitting here tonight, yeah, what was more difficult for you, or was it more difficult for you? Was it more challenging for you to be a lady, in this position, and starting your own business and so on? You've alluded to it before.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really think being a male or female is going to make it any easier or harder for you to start business. I think whatever um, field you kind of go into, I think the PR field in South Africa, believe it or not, is very male dominated, and most of the heads of the big PR companies are all men. So going into a very male dominated arena, and every time you walk into a boardroom when it's got to do with public relations, you're surrounded by men. And that's hard. You kind of feel like you have to prove yourself just that little bit harder and wear your skirt a little bit longer so no one thinks that you're trying to, use your sexuality to try and get somewhere. And that's hard because, you are. And if you want to wear a short skirt, go for it. I think that was my biggest mistake. I was trying to live everyone else's image of how I should have been. And for me, I'm happy with me. I mean, when I started my business, I also had a boyfriend who was, he was working in the corporate world. He couldn't understand this whole thing. Why I'd give up my job, and he left me. He said to me, "Go find a job." And look at me now. So that was, and that's not easy because you look for that support. One thing about being an entrepreneur when you start, you do look for support. You look for anyone you can cry to, anyone you can just vent to, anyone you can look for advice from. So that, I wouldn't necessarily say being a woman is harder because I'm kind of tired of hearing that too. I think me as a person, male or female, I think I'm awesome at what I do. And as long as I think that that's really what you should be. I know my parents, especially my mom, she was worried about me. She didn't know if this was going to work and if I was going to be able to do anything. But as parents, I think the greatest job my parents ever did was never stop me from pursuing my dreams, whether it was this or anything else. Um, and that's what I love about my family. I mean, I come from a big family with 3 boys, 3 girls, but we're a huge family, and we're very supportive of each other. And entrepreneurship was never really a thing in our house where it was like, you have to have your own business. It was go study and be something. Um, but I don't think it was like you have to be a doctor or you have to be a lawyer, you have to do this. We were kind of left up to our own devices to decide what we wanted to do. And I'm glad I picked PR. I love my job. I love what I do. I don't see myself anywhere else. Besides, I can't act, I can't dance, I can't sing, so I have to pick something. So for me, I'm happy where I am, and I think you do get to work. When you meet other entrepreneurs and you hear stories, I think you've got to realize they're pretty much all the same. You just didn't give up. And that's really what the core focus is of anything. No matter how much money you don't have, no matter how hard it is, no matter how long it takes, you should just you really never give up. And I use one of my clients, I use Casper as an example. It took him 8 years to kind of break through and actually get his debut album out. And for 8 years he struggled to do that, and now he's one of the hottest stars we have. And you look at a story like that, and you really do believe in the fact that believing in yourself is probably the best thing you can ever do. I'm a huge believer of believing in the universe and the secret, and I know a lot of people aren't, but for me it works. I do a vision board every 6 months. I put everything I want to achieve on that board, and as I achieve it, I cross it off. And since I started doing that for the last probably 7 years, I've never I've never not achieved anything. And probably the one thing I didn't achieve, I just took over to my next vision board. Because for me, when I get up in the morning, I know what I'm going to work for. I know it's for that car. I know it's for that holiday. I know it's for those shoes. You know, I see you feel me. So, so everybody's dreams are different. What you want to see on your vision board is different. And I know we all have different ways of getting to our goals, and that's just mine.
Nick, tell us a bit about this Hustler of the Year award. Is it essential for an entrepreneur to be a hustler as well?
I think at nine is you literally start off like a hustler. A hustler is someone that sells whatever it is that they're selling from the boot of their car, on the street corner. My favorite entrepreneurs are hip hop entrepreneurs because, with them, no one really gave them anything, like absolutely nothing. So you look at your Jay-Z's, who's worth like $500 million at the last count. When they put out their first album, when he put out his first album, he literally didn't get a record deal, one, and he couldn't get his CD, which is now known as a classic. Imagine you have an album 15 years later, it's renowned as a classic, as one of the best hip hop albums ever. Yet he had a product and no one could listen to it. He couldn't get a record deal. He couldn't get that album in stores. So him and his partners decided to sell, the CDs in the street corner. Now these are guys that are probably 26 years old. They probably have kids, and if you look at the social context of it, you probably wouldn't chill on a corner and sell your product. You know what I mean? Not a lot of people are that determined to actually achieve their goals. They did. They chilled on corners. They sold it at clubs. They sold it on street corners from the boot of their car, and eventually it got picked up. Eventually it got to the guys at Def Jam, and they were like, "Whoa, this is hot." And we get one of the songs on the Nutty Professor soundtrack, and they got one of the songs on there, and the rest is history. Now Jay-Z makes $1 million per show. You know what I mean? So, a hustler for me is someone who knows what they're selling and they know how to sell it. So whether it's starting small or selling it in the boardroom. And then I think it's very important to go from selling on the street corner to selling in the boardroom. You know, when I started selling my T-shirts, I used to sell them at my apartment. People used to buzz, just buzz in, come check out T-shirts, boom, buy two, buy three. And now I literally had opportunity group at our office this past week. They come to us. You know what I mean? They come to us like, guys, what do you guys have for summer, for winter? And we present our range. We place the order. We make the stuff. We deliver, and it's all good. I went to NASPERS, you know, a week or two ago, and we presented to them as well. They have an online retailer that's very, very popular, and they came to us. They're like, can we stock your stuff? You know what I mean? So you need that sort of mentality to start small and then adapt. You know, you can't get to that level and still maintain that hustler mentality. You need to like evolve as a business person and as a leader, and it's something I try to do.
Yeah, perfect. Just maybe with the mic.
To the two guys, because I think I felt this a lot when my business expanded, and I really wasn't expecting it. I think all you ever want is for your business to succeed, and when it does, it's the most overwhelming experience ever. You don't know how to deal with all this growth and the money. And money is great coming in, but you don't know what to do with it because you're like, do I put it back? Do I buy shoes? Do I do? So, so like, I want to know from other entrepreneurs because I never really get to ask other people this question, to be honest.
What was the question again?
Overwhelmed.
Oh, okay. Um, you said earlier that you big believer in the whole universe secret stuff. I am too, and I always like your posts on Instagram. Sometimes I'll screen grab, you know. But one of the things I've learned from studying secret and the universe and all of that stuff is for the first, when you embark on a certain journey, you know, let's say the journey of becoming an entrepreneur, it won't be easy in the beginning. You always obviously have all sorts of crazy challenges and obstacles, some that you wouldn't have foreseen beforehand. Now, the secret is, I think it applies in business especially. You will go through those tough times, right? And a lot of people give up just when they are an inch or 2 inches away from the breakthrough. So for me, I've experienced that in business too. I started off cool, it kind of blew up, and then things got a little bit tough after we made a few mistakes that cost us quite a bit. And then I went through a period where it was just seeming too hard and nearly gave up. But I kept going because I had it in me. I knew what I'd built, and I knew what what sort of value we had created as a brand, and I knew what obviously was coming in the future. And eventually we had that breakthrough. When you experience the breakthrough, yes, it can be overwhelming because everything seems to be going so well and everything's just working out. You're no longer going to clients, they're coming to you. When you go to we do events too. I didn't mention this. We eventually got into the events business, and our events business is on par with our clothing business. So when you go looking for sponsorship, it's, hey man, come in. How much do you want? It's literally like that because people have realized the value that we bring and and our worth. You know, but previously, just to get 30,000 rand for a sponsorship was a problem. It was very, very difficult. So now all these blessings come in, and for me, I just pray. If I get a blessing, I just pray and I thank God, and I keep moving. My goal is to make sure the 5, 6 people that we employ are able to get their salaries at the end of the month. Our bills are paid. You know what I mean? I'm finally taking a holiday, my first holiday in 6 years in Jan. Yeah, it's very hard. Exactly, exactly.
So entrepreneurs don't take holidays.
No, no.
And Evan, I mean, maybe answer that question, but also, is it true that anyone with a laptop Wi-Fi can have a tech startup, or how does it work?
Let me help with that. But I think what you were saying, I'm still kind of 3 years into my business. We're not yet at that stage of exploding and fireworks. But I think we're kind of just at the top of that curve. Like interesting things are starting to happen. People recognize you when you go to events. They know what your company is already. Strangers have seen you on paper. You start to get emails from these big companies you haven't approached. That kind of stuff is slowly happening. So I'm kind of still like getting used to this strange behavior of outside interest coming in. Um, but also oddly enough, I also believe in the secret of the universe and having a vision board. Mine's just on my desktop. Um, it's got a few crazy things like robots and things, but that'll happen in a while. Um, but also, I just think something that's really important is assembling a team around you to complement you and help you out when things are low. Because I'm so lucky I have a business partner who's so jolly all the time, literally lolling at everything I say to him over WhatsApp. When things go bad, I'm just like, oh, I want to give it in. I'm done with this. I'm just going to get a real job at the end of the year. I don't actually believe that myself, but I say to him. And then he'll always say, no, can we continue? We're doing really well. And he'll point out things. It really helps to have that external perspective. So don't think that you can do it by yourself. It really helps to have someone else there with you. Also because you don't necessarily have all the skills. I can program things and make things technical, but I can't tell them. I'm not good at speaking. I need the Steve Jobs who can speak about things that I build. I can't build them myself. But determining whether all you need is a laptop. I don't think you do. I think you need someone who can talk, someone who can tell, who can kind of communicate your offering to people. And I mean, even then, if you think you created the best thing in the world, other people might not do that. You need to actually go out and test it and see if it works and see if other people like it. Because it may fit a need in your life, but that's not particularly useful to everyone else who you're trying to sell to. I think something that's useful for you guys now is while you're at university, while you're studying, is try out ideas. Just kind of get them out to the marketplace and test them out, because this is the time to test things and learn from them and kind of pivot on your idea. I mean, my first business did nothing, didn't do anything at all, but I learned different lessons from each one, and there's no better time to do it than when you either have a job or you are studying. Also, while you're studying, you get practice on how to live off no money, which is a very valuable skill when you're an entrepreneur.
Okay, thanks. I think we're gonna open it to the floor now and have some questions. Deirdre, we're gonna need someone to run around with that mic. Thanks so much. And those high heels, it's gonna be tough. So if anyone has any questions, just raise your hand and we'll bring the mic to you. There's one in the back there.
Testing. Yeah. Hi, my question is for Nick. You said you offered that company an incentive to give the money up front before actually engaging in business. Was that a cost? What kind of incentive was that?
Yeah, thanks for the question. It was a cost incentive. At the end of the day, businesses only worry about one thing, that's money. There's no emotions involved. So I gave them how much was it? I think it was 12.5% discount. So on a $500,000 order, you save $60,000 or something like that, and you still get your product. So obviously, I thought that was needed as because they're taking a risk. You know what I mean? So you might as well give them something extra to make them wanna take that risk. So I don't know, maybe it was greed on their part or whatever, but they took it. So they still got their order, and they still got their stock, and they made a lot of money from it. And on top of that, they saved about 60,000 rand. So that obviously came from our margin. So a little bit of sacrifice that we made just to get the order done. At that early stage, just get the order done. You know what I mean? And try to make some money, while you're at it.
So yeah.
I'm not going to ask you what your business idea is, but what I'm going to, and the reason I'm not, because maybe you want to tell the rest of it. Okay. Okay. So in terms of networking, right? You obviously know what you want to go into. the kind of people that you need to meet, are you going out to the places that they hang out? Because I'll tell you one thing I did. I needed to meet celebrities and I didn't know celebrities. So I would basically be someone's plus one. And I'm not lying when I say I used to bribe the security to let me into the kitchen door so I could sneak into events. So even though I'm standing with myself, I met everybody I needed to in my industry. So you kind of do need to hustle. So in terms of networking, are you networking with the right kind of people? Or are you networking with like-minded people?
And with that said, I do feel like I'm kind of doing it, but I feel like we live in a society of if you're networking with celebrities, especially if they're guys, it's because you're trying to hook up with them. And if you don't want to talk that and just business or whatever, like, oh, this chick is so young. What is she talking about? Let's get her somewhere, you know? So it's really hard.
Okay, now I'm going to be curious. What industry do you want to go into?
Actually, I did apply at Great Time, that's PR,
Okay.
but I've got more of a business idea, like that goes along with it. It's a long story.
Okay.
I probably will.
In terms of like how I did it, that's really what I did. I threw an event in the first year of my company. I seen Clint Eastwood sitting at a restaurant next door to where my event was. I pulled my friend, told him to distract the manager. I'm not lying. In a short ass dress with high heels, I crawled underneath the bar, past Clint Eastwood security, and he came to my event because he said you asked me so nice. What is the worst anyone is going to do to you? Say no. No never killed anyone. No is rejection, and it's fine. You go cry it out and you go get somewhere else. You know. At the end of the day, if you really want to be where you are, celebrities make no difference to your business. Doesn't matter if they're celebrities or not. You need to figure out how you're going to do this. Even if it's step by step and you literally have to take one step a month, it's okay. So you need to figure out your business in terms of networking as well. I really do recommend that you guys network with the kind of people that you want to eventually see your business with. And also, if you want to try out ideas, I really do agree with Nick. You're sitting here with your peers. At the end of the day, these are the people that when they leave here are going to be able to afford your product. So you need to see if they actually really like it. So go out there, use them, pick their brains, see what see what it's about. But in terms of just getting your idea across, make sure it happens whether you get that email back or not. Yeah. Let me tell you something. Even if someone steals your idea, one I have learned because I've had many, many, many ideas stolen. I'm sure Nick can say the same thing. And I'm only saying this. I'm sorry, but I know Nick more in a personal capacity. So I know this happens to them. One thing about an idea, someone can steal it, but if it's your idea, no one will ever implement that idea like you will. It will fuck it up, I promise you. Because your idea is the way you see your idea, you planned it out. It's original to you. You've not taken it from anywhere. No more than likely, you put it down on paper. You put out step by step how you're going to do it. No one can do that. When someone takes an idea from a conversation, it's a different picture in their head. It's a different idea. So it doesn't matter if they steal your ideas. Remember, we don't all wear shoes from the same brand. Okay? And it still works. We still buy it. We don't all buy the same cosmetics, but we still buy it. Even though someone might take your idea, it's okay because no one's ever going to have your idea.
Evening. First and foremost, thank you for being an inspiration. Um, so even I've read somewhere you connected, or Jason Stanford, one of South Africa's biggest technological entrepreneurs as well, starting a Silicon Valley in Cape Town, which is great. Nick, you approach Gavin Roger, one of the biggest fashion guys, and you also work with AKA Kieran Forbes, which dropped 2 weeks ago, his album Levels, which I love. And you like as well, and you look cafe. Now my question is, as you started as an entrepreneur, you got credibility. How do you get influential people to actually take you seriously and to recognize you?
I'd like to go for that one. Nick?
Uh, that's always a tricky one, dude. Because one, you need influential people on your side, but you are not influential just yet. So um, I deal with the same situation where a lot of young guys all up in my face, like everywhere, dude, at the club or whatever. Like, yo, Nick, yo, help me out with this. I'm trying to do this. Or can I work with you on this? It's very difficult to say yes to everyone. Some, who are maybe persistent enough or truly have a great idea, I do assist. But more often than not, you find that maybe the idea is not that great. So my advice to you is uh, make sure your idea is dope and then try to execute it on your own. You know what I mean? Like, I would have, as much as I went to go see Gavin Raja, I didn't say, Gavin Raja, if you don't help me do this, I'm going to kill myself or I won't be able to do it. You know what I mean? I just wanted to maybe soak up his energy a little bit, maybe see how they do things and get a bit of his advice. You know what I mean? Sometimes you look up to someone and you treat them like they're an idol or, someone immortal. So sometimes you just need to touch them. Like, no, actually, this is just a regular human being. I can do exactly what they've done. You know what I mean? So I need that. And as soon as that's in your mind that you can do it too, it's just a regular guy. All they do is that they work harder than anyone else, you know? So if you have that, then you can do it. So whatever it is that you have and no one is willing to like back you up, just keep doing it, man. Like I have so many examples of guys when I look at my inbox, someone that emailed me 6 months ago, not 6 months ago, sorry, 6 years ago or 5 years ago, and they persisted. Just because I didn't reply or didn't give them a favorable answer, they persisted. And a case in point is these guys that we work with from Durban, like DJs and stuff. So initially they emailed us years ago. I mean, I didn't know where they were coming from, but we saw them blowing up, and we're like, oh snap, let's talk to those guys again. I remember that conversation. So eventually, that person that you went to actually pick it up 2, 3 years later. So be patient. Don't now become angry and or start throwing shade on Twitter. Like that. I get that. Do you know how many people I said no to have all of a sudden become my enemies just because I said no and I was polite, dude. You know, I can't say yes to everything. You know what I mean? So other people will be more constructive about it. I was at a club on Friday, and this other kid came to me like, Nick, the dude, man, you inspire me so much. 2 years ago, I emailed you, and you said no, I can't assist you, whatever. And then he said, I'm glad you said no, because your no was actually constructive. Like, yo, dude, just keep putting in work, and then come talk to me again, 2 years later. And then what I see, what he's doing now, is pretty dope. So who knows? We'll probably work together. So just persist with what you're doing. Eventually, the right person will take you.
Can I ask you a question? Do you think you're credible? Why?
Well,
Exactly.
I'm sorry. Well, if you don't believe in you, then expect others to believe in you.
Now, when you ask that question about being credible, the only way you can ever prove yourself to be credible is when you put in the work and you actually deliver on what you said. And I totally agree with Nick. I'm in the position where I get at least 25 to 30 emails a day from different rappers because everybody thinks I'm going to make them this famous rapper. Okay? If you don't have talent, I really do tell you that. What is the point of emailing me if you don't want feedback? And if somebody isn't great on something, I will tell them. Or if they're a music producer and they produce something, I'll say to them, dude, you know what? Maybe I'm not hearing this right because it's not mastered. Maybe you need to do that and then let me listen to it. Or just stop the flow. It's just not working for you. And that doesn't mean I'm saying to this dude he can never be that. He can never. I mean, I'll tell you a story. I don't even think Nick knows the story. AKA wanted me to be his publicist. I didn't like AKA. I said no. For 4 months, he came to me. 4 solid months. Told one of his managers to call me in a club. And he literally wouldn't let me walk out of where I was until I said yes to me. And this was 4 months of pursuing me. And I was just like, I don't want to do this. we went to the meeting and I actually met AKA, and I said to him, I don't like you. I don't want to work with you. I don't really know why I'm here. I said, really, I'm hungry because we were at a lunch meeting. I had some time. And he said to me, you know what, Fran, what do you want me to do to prove to you that I can do this and I'm going to make it? And I said to him, I don't want you to do anything to prove to me. You need to prove this to yourself. And he did that. And I said to him, I literally took a piece of paper and I wrote a list of about 4 or 5 things that I needed him to do in the next 2 weeks to prove to me that he was going to do this for himself. And he did. And that's how he ended up my client. But you have to be credible to yourself. Because if you walk in there, one thing about somebody who's been in your position, they can tell when you don't have confidence. They can tell when you don't believe in yourself. So it brings us back to the basically me.
Sure, thanks. Are there any more questions? Oh, 2. Okay, I think we'll take those 2, and then that'll be that. And I'll ask you guys one more thing, but go for it.
Okay. Good evening. I'd like to ask. I think I speak on behalf of all of us here. You guys, when you started, didn't really have the capital or support. I just like to know what your personal biggest assets were in your business ventures and how you use them.
Okay, anyone volunteer for that one?
I can answer that in one sentence, gift or the gab. I know I can talk anybody into anything. I know that. My mom can tell you that. So for me, that was my biggest asset. I had to really sell it and make sure that it worked for me. But it's because, when you talk to someone, the one thing I know when I talk to someone is I can see when their eyes light up of certain things I say. So when I see that, I know what to stick to. So find your niche of what interests people and stick to that.
I think my advantage at the time, remember I'd started my first label when I was 19 years old. At the time, I didn't know anyone in Cape Town. I wasn't connected. I didn't have money, and so forth. So fast forward, maybe 5, 6 years later, I worked as a magazine editor. That means one, I developed leadership skills, right? I had a little bit of money because I was able to take half of my salary every month. And then by then I was a little bit more popular around the city and stuff like that. I'd done a couple of events with, a couple of artists and stuff. So I kind of had my foot in the door, so to speak, with the entertainment scene, which I thought was vital for a funky, cool, streetwear brand. So by the time we launched Head Ancho, it was not that difficult for me to pick up the phone and call, a popular rapper in Cape Town. Obviously, we're still restricted to Cape Town, so it was very easy for me to get the right type of guys, influencers, to embrace the brand, to start rocking the brand. So my advantage is I learned from my past experience. So I waited until I had a little bit of money. I had a little bit of, not fame, but, just a bigger network to trade in. Because you need a little bit of a network. So even if it's a network of 100 people, but that network could be the very same network that helps you take your business to the next level. Because you've got 100 friends, and most of them are cool, or they work in the entertainment business, or they work for brands, whether it's liquor brands or whatever. Those are your customers. So I started selling to my friends first, So that was my advantage.
I mean, my perspective's from creating a product, so it's different to kind of service industries. But if you think it's something that people really, really hate, and you can find a better way to do it, then people will automatically find your idea quite interesting. But I mean, you need to. People don't like tax at all. So people eyes light up when we say that we've made tax easy for people. But I think to answer your question a bit as well, is what people will respond to is if you've taken an idea and done something with it, because it's easy to have an idea. People have written to us and to go, oh, we hate you because you executed an idea. I was like, oh, well, you didn't execute, so I don't feel bad. Or, um, if you can take your idea and make it into a working system, no matter how kind of small that is, like our system was really small in the beginning. We didn't have that many customers at all. We went through our business is super seasonal, so when tax season ends, nobody gets tax at all. but we built such a small, efficient system that it managed to pay for itself in that time. It managed to build momentum really, really slowly. So it starts off as a tiny little snowball, slowly grows bigger. But yeah, we just need to develop something that's sustainable and then stay with it.
Okay, hello. My question is to Farah, and it's basically around the expansion of your business, because you mentioned that you were pretty much a one-woman show up until this year, and now I think you have another 5 employees. So, yeah, pretty much I just want to know, what is it like now running a team rather than just running a business by yourself, and also the responsibility of paying 5 extra salaries compared to just, your PAs beforehand. Just a bit more about that.
I think when you have to pay someone salaries, you really have to make sure you have work. And I think that's the biggest driving force for me, is always making sure that we bring in enough work, and we're always relevant. But I mean, you also have to remember that up until the end of last year, I ran my business from my house, from my home. So I work from home, and it again brings me back to that whole thing. You you will always be in the situation you are in your head. So in my head, I couldn't afford an office. In my head, I couldn't afford extra staff. In my head, I was only capable of doing this because I, I'm a control freak, and I just kept thinking, oh, if I give this to, my PA, and she's gonna do this, and then I'm gonna let it go. And when I let go of all those things, and I got offices, and I looked for more staff, even though at the time I looked for another member of staff, I couldn't really afford it. But I knew that I had to live my vision in my head, and that was the only way it was going to work. And it really it pushes you to make sure that you are living out exactly the way you see your business going. I never expected within 6 months to be sitting with 5 staff. That was completely unexpected for me. And that's why I asked them about being overwhelmed, because I think it was about April or May, and we had just signed, I don't know if some of you have heard of the Tribe One Festival. So they are clients, so we just signed them to do this festival. And I was like, oh my God, how am I going to do this? Because I have a publicist who's come straight out of uni. I very much believe in training my girls. So it's, you can, how can I say, without experience, you can't really do anything. So even though you come out of uni, and I think that's why a lot of people struggle when they get out of jobs. So my niche is making sure I really do empower the people that come out of uni, and make sure that they have a job, because I think that's the biggest thing when you come out. And I had this university student who just got a PR degree. I had a PA who doesn't have a degree and learned everything she did in the time she's been with me. And I sat there and I was like, oh, what am I gonna do? I need to hire staff. I don't know how to hire staff. I don't know HR, anything about HR really. I've had one member of staff to deal with, and that for me was very, very overwhelming. I never expected that. And then you have to understand, I just won an award, so everybody thinks, oh, she got the big company and she's doing so. And I was so scared. I didn't know. So it is a very overwhelming experience. But to go from there, you literally have to live every day one at a time, like literally every minute one at a time, and make sure that even though you have salaries to pay, that these people rely on you, not just payment. They rely on you to experience, because I hope one day that they leave me and go and start their own PR agencies, because I don't expect them to work for me forever. I can't expect them to live their dreams through me. That's not going to work for anybody. But just that experience of thinking, oh my God, I've got to do this. When you have that, just do it. Honestly, just do it. Whatever it is, whether it's a guy asking you out, whether it's eating something you've never tried before, whether it's buying a pair of shoes you can't afford, do it. Do it. And I'm being serious. Do it. This is the one life you have to live. There is nothing that is going to be able to bring that back. There is nothing that's going to be able to make anything different. If you don't live your life now, then who's going to live for you? And honestly, the one thing I have found about having business, I've regretted 2 things in my business. And I live with that every day because of the fact that I regretted it and I hate it. And I've learned that by letting go and envisioning what I want, it will happen. It really will happen. I've always you know, and I've always wanted white offices. I always said the day I get offices, I'm gonna have white offices. These are the laptops we're gonna have, and everything that I envision. And I swear to God, I have this because I still have the old vision board of exactly what my office is gonna look like. What, four years later, my office looks exactly like that. Everything I envision of my business is exactly the way it is. So you have to live like, you know, I can't say fake it till you make it anymore. Like literally, that really is it. You have to live your dream with such a passion that when someone speaks to you, they literally feel the energy from you. That's your business, that's your life. And that's the only way you're ever gonna get anywhere, no matter what you do, whether it's if you decide not to own your own business, and even if you go into a job, getting there is all about you and you need to make sure that it happens. It's very hard to kind of start a business and hope that you're going to be a millionaire the next day. It doesn't work that way. 6 years down the line, I've only just cleared the debt that I had when I started this business. That's why I don't have credit cards. I'm scared of that shit. I've been there. I know what it's like. I've had to pay that off. I've had to learn how to save. I've had to learn how to do all these things. I've had to learn about HR. I've had to bring in people to teach me about it. I've had to learn about accounting. So that's a great thing. Thank you very much for that. So I've had to learn about all these things, and it isn't easy. And I think the biggest thing, one of my regrets, the biggest thing that I live with is the fact that I only started my business at 29 years old. So don't wait for that. Like do it now, and that's why your peers are here. These are the people who are going to be making money and buying your stuff. So use them and see if your ideas are going to work. But don't ever think that whatever you're thinking about or whatever you want to happen is not going to happen. Because I truly, truly, truly believe that anything is possible. If I can get here on 1,000 rand, can you imagine what it would be like if I had more? Or if I'd wanted it more, if I'd got a business loan or anything else. You know, so don't think that being overwhelmed is the one thing that's going to stop you. And don't think that don't think that by pursuing something that you, even if you get rejected, it's not going to work. Like Nick said, you know, we get these emails all the time. I had an email yesterday, someone asking me for 20,000 rand. I said, where's your business plan? How am I going to get my money back? All these things, and I never got a reply. However, if he had come to me with a proper business plan and what his idea was, and he started implementing it, maybe I would have actually invested in it. So you never know. At the time you hit that send button on the email, you never know what your reply is going to be.
Thanks a lot. I think we'll have some photo opportunities now, and I don't know, you guys can social quickly. But the conversation doesn't stop here. If you want to continue talking about tonight's events, obviously we have the blog competition running, and on Twitter I think our hashtag is LLYES, so LLL Yes for Young Entrepreneur Symposium, and we'll be taking you guys to some of the LLL houses to get some coffee there. Some of them have kindly offered to host you for coffee. But I think from our side, thanks so much for giving your time and really, you know, showing us, being examples of leaders that, you know, kind of give back to the students that may one day even be your competitors. Yeah, so that's good, and thanks a lot for the effort. Thanks for New Generation residents for giving us this space, and I think finally we can just give them a round of applause.
Everyone, I just want to say thank you to the speakers for coming out to Stellenbosch and finding this residence and village on the map with no streets. You know, we'll have signs up soon. And just for being here and inspiring students. And we have some gifts for you. While Katerina and Nora is giving out the gifts, I also just want to thank my housemates, the LLL interns. I must have driven you guys crazy for the symposium and gotten angry with me many times. And the LLL administration for all your support and finances, we love you. For MFM Sound, for New Generation residents, for offering up your hall to us, really we appreciate it so much. And just quick reminders, Philip has mentioned the blog. Please remember LLL is closing, the applications are closing on the 8th of August. We have workshops on social innovation on Saturday, and next week on the 6th of August on mediation and conflict resolution if you want to attend that. Check out the Facebook groups for that. And also for the houses, if some of the housemates are here who will be hosting this Christmas night, just thank you for being available and contributing to the aim of Triple L to engage more in meaningful conversations.